JD McCard agus Fáilte Arat. It is so fantastic to see so many comrades gathered here tonight. Firstly, I want to make a special mention to our comrade Mick Murphy, who's ill at the moment. He couldn't be here, but he sends his best wishes to all of the team. Also want to say get well soon to our comrade John Rice JR, as we all know and love him by. Look around this room. Your presence here demonstrates the sheer strength, the determination and the unmatched optimism that defines Sinn Féin across South Down. Tonight is a massive occasion for our area. We are here to officially launch the team of candidates who will lead the charge to secure 3 MLA seats in next May's Assembly election. Sinead, Cathy and Michael are first-class representatives. They are deeply rooted in our communities. They understand the real pressures facing working families, and they are entirely committed to delivering positive change for every single person in this constituency. We meet at a time when people are up against it. Families are struggling under the weight of the cost of living. Our public services are being stretched to the limit, and people are rightly demanding political leadership that puts their interests first. Sinn Féin is determined to keep standing up for workers, for families, and for our youth and for our older citizens. We are here to ensure that South Down's voice is heard, that our people's needs are prioritised. Our candidates bring energy, unmatched experience and a proven track record of public service. From here in the Mourns to the Drumlins of Downpatrick, they have worked tirelessly within their communities, listening, supporting local campaigns and making a tangible difference in people's lives. They know that real politics is about service, accountability and delivering results. So tonight isn't just about launching candidates, it's about launching a campaign built on hope, on ambition and on shared vision for a better future. We are fighting for a future where everyone has access to quality public services, a future where workers and families are supported, where opportunities are open to all, and where our local communities can truly thrive. And comrades, as we work to transform our local communities, we do so with our eyes firmly on the horizon. The conversation about a new Ireland is happening in every corner of this island. Irish unity is no longer a distant aspiration. It's a practical, achievable reality that is within our grasp. By returning 3 Sinn Féin MLAs for South Down, we aren't just delivering first-class representation for this constituency, we are strengthening the mandate for change, advancing the countdown to a unity ref, and building a nation that belongs to everyone who calls it home. So thank you all for your incredible support and for standing with us tonight. Together, we are going to build on our achievements, meet the challenges ahead, and deliver the stronger, fairer, and more prosperous future that South Down deserves. So now it is my absolute pleasure to introduce the 3 Sinn Féin candidates who will be leading our team into the Assembly election. So if you could please give a very full of us and stand up and welcome our candidates, Sinead Ennis MLA, Cathy Mason MLA, Councillor Michael Price, and we also welcome Professor Graham. And now I'm going to invite South Down MP Chris Hazard to the stage, and he's going to chat with the candidates. And now I'm going to invite South Down MP Chris Hazard to the stage, and he's going to chat with the candidates.
Well, Trúna mai a cardja agus the Fáilte more rud Michelle go and den has and up. It's great to see so many people here, as Una has said, and it's especially on a night like tonight. This is a busy site between the GAA and the youth club and everything else. So the vibrancy outside this room matches the vibrancy inside this room, and I think that's one of the most exciting things about this evening. Well, I suppose to jump straight into it, as that video has outlined, you know, we've seen some monumental political, historic change over recent years. And maybe to start with yourself, Sinead, 2014, you come in as a local councillor here. You've seen some massive change here in South Down, even yourself. Do you want to give us a flavour for the lay of the land understand where we find ourselves today?
Yeah, thank you, Chris. And just to say, it's a pleasure always to be in Lawrence and to be in Attic Hall this evening. I suppose even just looking at the graphic of us there, that wasn't taken yesterday. So yes, we've seen some massive change locally across the north and obviously across the island as well since I first came into elected politics. I mean, it was at the time whenever the new councils were emerging, so we had actually merged the old Newry and Mourne Council with Down Council. So I suppose even just on a local level, it was meeting our new colleagues, getting to know our new colleagues from the down end of the constituency, and really the few years that it took that new council to really bed in. And I suppose I was just, thinking a lot of the campaigns, a lot of the projects that we were working on when that new council came into being are actually only coming to fruition now, and that's probably a criticism of how slow our politics sometimes works here in terms of delivery. But it shows that when you're persistently at a project and at work, it will come good in the end. So. The early days of that new council was all very much about bedding in, about finding our feet, and when I came into council, my only goal was just to make the community, the constituency that I represented in Crottleaf, to make it the best it could be, to make sure the people that I represented had access to first-class facilities, be that sport and be that community infrastructure. And as I said, we're really starting to see a lot of those projects come to fruition now. And then if you want to jump forward to my time in the Assembly from 2017, again, I mean, I've been in the Assembly 10 years now, almost 10 years now, so it's been down for a lot of that time. But I have to say, I think in the years that we, especially if we look back to the last mandate, I think we brought through something like 20 bills just in that last mandate alone. Some really, really important pieces of legislation in terms of parental rights, in terms of protection for women and girls, in terms of new domestic abuse protections and laws as well. And I served for a time on the Justice Committee as well, so it very much had a hand in making sure those important pieces of legislation came through. But obviously we had Brexit to deal with at that time as well, a lot of new realities for all of us. And obviously my constituency is on the Corning for Loch as well. So we have a lot of realities in our part of the world that maybe weren't consideration whenever Brexit was brought up in Westminster. So we had to navigate all of that. We had to navigate COVID as well. And I know Michelle and the team in the executive really worked hard to make sure people were supported through that time. It was a very difficult time for everybody. So when I think back to the last mandate in the Assembly, while we weren't there for very long, the amount of legislation, the amount of supports that we were able to bring through really is quite impressive, and it shows if we had a full mandate, just what we could do. And even now, in the time the Assembly has been back since 2024, I mean, we're dealing with, we're still actually staving off some of the worst excesses of Tory austerity right every day in the executive and the Assembly. There's lots of pressure both inside and outside the executive for us to pass some of those pressures on to ordinary workers and families, and that's something that we have to work every day. That's something that we are very much committed to in Sinn Féin, to protecting people from. So yes, it's been, in some ways, it has gone in the blink of an eye, but when you actually sit and think about those years and you start to think about the things that we have brought forward, the things that Sinn Féin have been able to deliver both in the executive and the Assembly and on a local level as well, because our team locally has grown exponentially over the last 10 to 14 years as well, and hopefully at the next council election we're able to achieve that overall majority. I think that would be something very historic and very seismic for us here locally as well. So there's plenty to do. As I said, we've achieved lots, but we're dealing with some very big pieces of legislation in the Assembly at the minute. We really want to get the good jobs bill over the line, and we want parties to work with us in getting that over the line, because that is the most transformative piece of workers' rights legislation that we'll have seen in the last 10 years in the North. Protecting people in terms of parental leave, that workers get to keep their tips, that people are treated fairly. Those are the things that we're working on day and daily. So there's lots of big stuff happening, and I suppose it is a really exciting time to be in the Assembly and to be sort of at the coalface of all of that.
Great, thank you. Kathy, something Sinead touched on there, all three of you have been councillors first, and then Sinead and yourself obviously have then went in to be an MLA in the Assembly. Did you find it was a good grounding for yourself? Was that helpful? And prepare you've obviously been in the Assembly since the last time it was restored, a very different Assembly. Perhaps we would have been there almost 10 years ago now, as you say. How did you find that move?
Yeah, well, the first thing is serving in the Assembly and serving the people of Southdown has been the absolute privilege of my life to be able to do that. There's no doubt about it that being in the council first absolutely gives you a strong grounding, but I'm not really sure that anything could quite prepare you for going into the Assembly. It's definitely a completely different pace. And a bit of a culture shock whenever you initially go into it. I suppose I was so lucky to have, you know, such a strong team there behind us. I've had such a brilliant role model in Sinead and great support in Sinead as well, but obviously with Michelle leading us there, you couldn't really ask for a better role model. So yeah, I suppose one of the difficulties that you face in trying to navigate that change is in the council you find at times you can get things done maybe that wee bit quicker and you're out on the ground and much more it being in your constituency. Sometimes in the Assembly you feel like you're kind of stuck up there. And you know you maybe can't be in your constituency as much as you would like, but I think the most important thing, and it's probably learning from yourself as well, Chris, is making sure that everything that we're doing in the Assembly is about Southdown and it's about our constituents in Southdown as well. And I think the council gives you a really strong bedding for that as well. I think one of the biggest learnings I think that I had though, and within that change, is that my family have got the patience of saints with the long hours that you have to do. And Sinead mentioned a lot of the legislation and stuff that's coming through now, and we're naturally there are longer nights and things like that. And even at times, I'm sure Sinead you can testify that, and Michael you're going to learn this, is that even when you are at home, sometimes you're not really at home because you're dealing with constituency issues and things like that too. So I think it's that juggle that's been difficult to navigate and manage, but I suppose that's the job that we're there to do.
I hope you haven't put Michael off there. Michael, it just struck me actually the last time we were both on this site together, Addy Call had just relegated Drummondess. So it's nice to be able to return tonight and maybe help get Navi Coleman promoted into the Assembly, so we're returning the favour. But and again, I hope Kathy and Sinead haven't put you off, but you've obviously been in the council here now for a full term, 5 years, you'll have got under your belt. Do you think you're ready for it? What have you learned maybe from council, and you can bring into the campaign and then ultimately then onto the benches at Stormont?
Yeah. No, well, it's I can't believe that it's we're just looking back. This is nearly 5 years now. It's we lost Sean Horn, and I suppose the fact is always that I've been racing at some stage. He was going to retire and head off into the sunset. He always kept me going, but he'd see warm, and I was thinking that scene's going to be roasting. I'm not worried about that for another while. And then I suppose as a common, we had difficult discussions about ultimately replacing Sean, and I can see why maybe some were concerned that a 20-year rule was still at university, taking all that role. But that was Sean's wish, and that's the common wanted, so again, I thank the party for their trust in me and their trust in the young person to take on that sort of responsibility. In terms of the Assembly, I'm not there to make up numbers, I'm not there to sit on the bench. I think what I can bring is just, I'm born in 1988, it's the post-Good Friday Agreement generation. Young people don't care about the sectarian politics of the past, division. They just want to live here, they just want to be able to afford a home, they just want things that work right. A lot of my neighbours, they've emigrated to Australia, to America, even Doha, different places for better opportunities, for better quality of life. And it's a big problem, we're losing too many good people. And I know as a councillor, our phones never stop. We get phone calls about stuff, about the state of the roads, state of the health service. state of everything. But the key issue is that we're probably going to fund it here, you know. That's the big issue here, you know. I think that if we can turn a strong team, 3 MLAs from South Down, we can lead that change that next time around we're facing that tipping point. You know, the Irish government need to pull the finger out and start planning for unity referendum. The British government need to decide when it's going to happen. And this is a massive opportunity for South Down to take the lead on that. You know, electing 3 Republican MLAs, keeping Michelle as First Minister. You know, I think that's the key message coming out here tonight.
I agree. And Sinead, I just want to bring you back. You mentioned there are a number of the projects. One of them, obviously, is the Narrow Water Bridge in this wider neck of the woods, a transformative project. I suppose some people in the room won't know it's well on track. Do you maybe want to give us a feel for just where it's at and just what it's going to mean to this part of the world?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, everybody has heard of Narrow Water Bridge. I think for a long, many years, many people thought it maybe wouldn't happen. And I suppose that was always the forefront of our minds as elected reps, to keep people's hope alive that it would happen, to make sure that we were keeping the pressure on the Irish government in terms of delivery. So, you know, I'm glad now that we're at a stage where the end doors inside. I think we're on track for the bridge to open sometime in mid to late 2027. And I've said this, you know, so many times, Narrow Water is going to be completely transformative, not just for the greater Warren Point area, but for the whole of South Down, for the whole of Carnforlough. It really is, and we can't underestimate the historic nature of the bridge, and what it will do for us economically, what it will do for us in terms of linking the communities across the loch, because we are one community across the loch, but you know, we've been divided by borders, by the loch itself, and by physically been divided as well. And I think this will really connect communities across the loch in Louth and further afield, and obviously in our part of South Down. And we've been doing a lot of work with our colleagues in Louth County Council to make sure that once the bridge opens, that we're ready to hit the ground running. People who've been over to the Ometer Carlingford side of the loch will see that they're ready for visitors, they're ready for the influx of tourists that is going to bring. And I think what we have been very keen to do, and what we have really set our minds to, is making sure that in our side of the loch that we're ready to benefit from that, because it is far more than just an infrastructure project. It's really going to be key to unlocking the huge potential that we have in South Down, tourism potential, and in terms of the economy as well, boosting jobs. I'm so excited for it. We've been working with local businesses, with the Chamber in Warren Point, Burn and Restraver, and the community itself are really excited about it. You know, I think that's something in the time ahead that I'm very keen, very excited, like I'm genuinely excited to be working on it, because I can't wait for it to open. I can't wait for us to really reap the benefits that is going to bring. I think it's the first bridge that will connect north and south of the island. So it's historic in loads of different ways. So we really, as I said, need to be ready to really reap the benefits of that. We've been working with our economy minister, Keith Archibald, to make sure that we can really benefit from and get involved in terms of those all-island tourism brands. Ireland's Ancient East, there's absolutely no reason why our part of South Down should not be included in that. So that's something that we're really pushing for. I know Kiva has had discussions with her counterparts in terms of Tourism Ireland. So it's really going to be hugely transformative, and I'm so delighted that we're the sort of generation that gets to see it delivered.
Absolutely. Kathy, you mentioned there about finding your feet in the Assembly, and I think, like many people in here, I can't wait each week to see the Facebook video of the Education Committee or the Communities Committee, and whatever the scrutinising of a particular minister, and there's been fireworks at times, and you've done a phenomenal job in holding two.
Form of us unifying people across this island, and that we can change everything for the better.
A phenomenal job in holding two ministers to account the way it should be done, and it's fantastic to see. But how have you felt? You also made your debut on BBC Sunday Politics not so long ago too. How's the experience been? What have you thought of it?
Yeah, it's the communities and education, they're two big briefs, and they're also two briefs I think that affect everybody in some way, shape or form. So Michelle, I'm not really sure what I did to agree to get landed with those. And two ministers, like you say, who probably test my patience at times, but there's so many issues in both of those committees that we're dealing with, and they're far too important to not have that level of scrutiny. You know, if we look at education, and you might have to take the microphone off me here whenever I start talking about education, but there is our education system is in such a turning point, a tipping point. It's on a cliff edge at this minute in time, in my view. And we have a minister who seems like he's very busy. He seems like he's doing an awful lot, but again, in my view, he's not doing the right things, and he's not concentrating on the right things. The decisions that he is making are not about the children, and don't have the children at heart. We have a huge issue with special educational needs and the system that we're facing at the minute. In turn, then, in communities, again, in my view, we have a minister who is hostile to the Irish language, he's hostile to Irish culture, anything to do with it, and I think in recent times he's shown how he's hostile to ethnic minority communities and the LGBT communities as well. So I think both ministers warrant that scrutiny. In my view, I'm not there to give them an easy time. I'm there to scrutinise what it is that they are doing. I'm also there to aid and help those departments as well. And I think we're doing it on education very well in a number of the bills and things that we're bringing through. It's defies belief that I'm having to say this in 2026, but we've been driving forward a bill about giving girls the right to wear trousers to school. And I look at the social media commentary, and there's people from other places that can't believe that that's what we're talking about. The reality is the minister brought forward its own uniform legislation. We scrutinised it. We tried to aid him in bringing forward amendments to that, and those amendments were unfortunately blocked from being debated, never mind voted upon. So it's trying to navigate their way around that, and we decided we were not standing for this, and we're bringing forward and we've been pushing through our own legislation. It's been tough to try and get that across the line, but thankfully it had its first stage this week in the Assembly. So yeah, it's ministers at times who don't often like being scrutinised, and I think unfortunately scrutinised by a woman as well. They don't seem to like it. Again, I've been very blessed with the role models that I have, but I have to mention the mentorship that I've had from Pat Sheehan as well. I have been so blessed to have, be able to now call Pat a friend and a comrade, and under his guidance and his expertise in that. You mentioned about the Sunday politics, so yes, that was definitely out of my comfort zone at the time. But again, I feel so privileged that I was given the opportunity to do it, and I think if you are, and Michael, I'm sure you will find this ahead of you as well, I think if you believe in what you're talking about, if you're over your brief, but if you believe what you're talking about is the right thing, I think it makes it much easier to go on to the likes of those programmes as well. So it's about preparation and again being yourself. I think people can see if you're authentic or not too. So yeah, like I said, I was out of my comfort zone. Michael, if I can give you any advice, and take all the feedback that you can get, and when the WhatsApp messages that come from it are really positive, take it as well, because they mightn't always be so positive. But again, another thing that takes you come home from it and you feel 10 foot tall if you've done a good job, and if you've got your message across, and if people that are watching it know that you're doing it for the right reasons. But I find when I come in, my children were able to take the feet from under me and say, "Where's dinner, Mummy?" You know, as well at the same time. So.
And then Michael, just finally to yourself, we've seen that video there, you know, starting with the United Irishmen, and, you know, County Down and the Mournes in particular has always played a leading role in the Republican struggle for freedom, down through every generation. And it's no different today, you know, from the United Irishmen right through to the civil rights in Longstone and into Newcastle and all the rest of it. So what significance would it be then, not just to elect 3 Sinn Féin MLAs for South Down, but for the Mournes to have a Sinn Féin MLA, born and bred, Addy Coleman, being elected to Stormont?
Well, first of all, thinking what you said there, Kathy, I'm in front of a whole crowd here, I mean what I'm saying, I'm still getting the tight here. But no, definitely, you can't underestimate the significance it would be for 3 MLAs in this area. Just as you were saying, I don't know the adverse of that, I was looking at the old Down constituency, and I think it was James Craig's constituency, you know, the first Prime Minister, Protestant Parliament for a Protestant Legal. Then as far as 1987, it was a Unionist MP held the seat. Enoch Powell, he was 2 members with the Tories, they kicked him out. Let a bit of unionism under their arms, and he ran under their banner. No, absolutely, like, when you do think about the people that went before us that aren't here today, and Patriot Dead, the different stalwarts like the Mournes and South Down in general, when we're Republicans, when it wasn't popular to be a Republican, during the hard, dark days of conflict, it makes what I do quite easy nowadays, as being a rep. I think of like something like Murphy and that, and putting his name on a poster, and he's becoming a target for himself, essentially, you know. But we knew now it's easy. But it still can't underestimate the significance. The opportunity for 3 years South Down, an office in Kilkee, potentially with 3 over the line, you know, that's significant. That'll be for us here in the Mournes. As I say, the 3 of us here are willing to lead that charge. But it's going to take everyone in the room. You know, we look around here now, how many got voted. So we need everyone, friends, families, neighbours, handing out leaflets, knocking doors, tagging co-workers. Get out and get over the line.
Thank you all very much. I think just to finish on that point that Michael raises, and it's a really important point. Tonight we have 3 candidates sitting on the stage. This time next year we want them to be 3 MLAs, and if we're to do that, it depends on you. And it depends on all of us coming together over the next number of months, put their shoulder to the wheel. I have no doubt whatsoever that we'll do that. But we shouldn't get ahead of ourselves. There's a long time still to go, much can happen, but let's do this, folks. It's time that South Down made history again.
Was we bouncing that stuff? I think that's an omen, the bounce for the election. How you all doing? To run my tabs or revenge show and I'm so good to see you all, and thank you so much for all of you for coming along this evening on what is a very lovely sunny evening, and I'm sure there's grass to be cut and all sorts to be done, but fair play to you. And I think that does my heart good, and I think sets us off and sets your candidates off to the best possible start. You've come here to be part of this launch because you believe in this project and you believe in our 3 candidates. So firstly, for me, thank you for being here this evening. I know that many of you in the room are already Sinn Féin activists, and we're so grateful for that work, because it's all of you that do the hard yards, that go door to door, that do all the hard work in the craft and convincing people about our project. And our project is about unifying the people of this island. Our project is about how we bring people together. And our project is about how do we improve people's lives. And I believe in us, I believe in our project, and I know that you're here tonight because you do too. And if you're here tonight because you're curious, you're also very, very welcome, and our aim is that you'll be convinced whenever you leave. I think, folks, we are at a really exciting time in terms of all-island politics, and the momentum for constitutional change has never been stronger, and certainly in my experience, and perhaps all of you in the room can reflect on that also. And historic change, the things that were the old norms are now, it's all changing all around us. And sometimes you take a wee step back to kind of even have a check-in to see what actually is happening around us. So the first thing I would say is that Sinn Féin are the strongest that we've ever been in our history. In over 100 years, Sinn Féin have never been stronger. And again, that's down to all of your hard work over the years, and for those of you that have joined us more recently.
And in 2 years' time, we'll celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement. And Michael's right. Not everybody sees their world through our lens or our history or the journey that we've been on, and that's all right. Because the world that we want to build and the Ireland that we want to build is one that's better than the one that we grew up in. It's one that's better than the generations that came before. But in 2 years' time, whenever we celebrate the Good Friday Agreement anniversary, I want the call for the referendum on unity to be stronger than it ever has been. Because when I voted for it in 1998, I voted for it because it gave me a constitutional pathway towards Irish unity. And I've worked all of my adult life to bring that about and to be part of that project. And I want fulfilment to that. So that'll be our big ask. And I know that is a question that's going to get even louder. And that demand is going to get even louder in the time ahead. We've saw over the course of the last couple of weeks, Fine Gael have even entered into the conversation, and I welcome that. Because I think it's important that everybody who wants to build a brighter and better future for everybody across this island actually gets engaged in the conversation. So they've now announced that they're going to have a blueprint on Irish unity before the end of the year. And just last week, our party, Mary McDonald, our party president, actually lodged legislation in the Dáil, which is all about planning for constitutional change. And we believe that legislation is going to pass. That's huge. And you have to ask yourself, what is all those things happening at one time? What does that tell you? What does it tell you in terms of where people were at? I think it's because people can see the big idea of our time. I think people can see that Irish unity is the change that's going to give them a better life. And I think that they can see that the answer to a lot of the challenges that we have on a day-to-day basis come in the form of us unifying people across this island, and that we can change everything for the better. Now, I was just today, there's been a lot of media about the Brexit anniversary, because 10 years ago today we were taken out of Europe against our wishes. That's what happens whenever we have this link that we currently have with Britain. We voted against Brexit, but yet and all, we were taken out of Europe against our wishes. And as you have seen unfold throughout the course of the week, I soon be dealing with my 7th British Prime Minister in 10 years. So what does that tell you? That chaos in Westminster, I don't think we need that. That chaos in Westminster will never serve our people well. And that chaos in Westminster and their political priorities never have and never will serve our interests. So this is why the big idea of our time is Irish unity. This is why we need to break that link with Britain. And I want us to really get more energetic about our project now than we even ever have been. And if you even look at the recent elections in Scotland and Wales, look what was achieved there. For the very first time, another historic seismic moment in Irish urban politics. And with the SNP being returned in Scotland, with Plaid Cymru in Wales, and ourselves here, that's all pro-independence movements, all pro-independence parties who want to take control of their own fortunes and their own futures. And we're going to work with them. This is why this project is in such a really pivotal and exciting times. And I do genuinely believe that Irish unity is within touching distance, but we're not complacent. Far from it. We know we have to work hard for it. We know we have to convince people of why it's better for them. And I know that that's the work that we're all committed to doing. We need to grab it, but we also need to make it a reality. And I give you all of that to give you the backdrop to how important next year's Assembly election is. So, the business of tonight is that in less than 11 months' time, actually 10 months, 1 week and 5 days, who's counting? We will be going to the polls in the Assembly election. And as you know, for any that are seasoned activists, we always say this is the most important election. But this is going to be a very incredibly important election because it is about the future. It is about where we're going. It is about the direction of our island. And for me, the next year's election is about an opportunity to say yes. Yes to working together with parties who are like-minded and want to do so. It's about ending blockages and vetoes on progress, and we've said some things about that recently. Sinead actually headed up the work on our reform proposals. But it's also yes to looking ahead to a new and brighter future for everybody. So our priority, Sinn Féin's priority, is always about making politics work. It's about working for everybody in our community. It's about delivering real change and making people's lives better on a day-to-day basis. Building a future where all of us, everybody in our community, regardless of their background, that we all live side by side in respect, in solidarity. And that's the bedrock of Sinn Féin's work, it's the bedrock of my work. And as First Minister, it's what I practice every day. When I said I'd be a First Minister for all, I've lived up to that promise every day. And that's something that our whole party are committed to, working for every single person in our communities, to serve all communities, to work and represent everyone equally. And for us, in 2026, we judge ourselves. We judge ourselves by the Republican standards of equality, of respect for all, of dignity for all, and of a better future for all. What we do is that we build bridges rather than barriers. We work to bring people together, communities together, rather than inflame division. And as I said earlier, we're determined to ensure that all of our children, regardless of their background, grow up in a better world that we do. Really simply, folks, every day when I get up, everything I do, I want my granddaughter, my grandson, all my grandchildren's life to be better. I know that's what you want for your families too. And that's the Ireland that we're trying to build. What is that better for all of our families? And here in South Down, you're a part of that big, big project. And I think that when I reflect on many occasions across the constituency, to many election launches and rallies, I've watched the growth of the party here, and it's been absolutely tremendous. But that didn't come about by accident. It came about because of hard work. It came about because of determined people. It came about because of good politics. And I think that your hard work across this constituency means that in next May, for the first ever time, we're going to stand and we're going to win 3 seats across this constituency. We have the strong team, and that's all of you in this room, and many others that couldn't be here this evening, and that's what it'll take to make it all better. So I'm absolutely delighted tonight that Sinead, Cathy and Michael are all being put forward and launched as your 3 candidates. Like, I've known Sinead and Cathy for some time. Sinead the longer because she's been elected to the Assembly longer. She's my chief whip. She whips the whole team. So Sinead is my right-hand woman in the Assembly. So that's what you have in your constituency. Cathy, as Chris has said, takes on the ministers that she's accountable to be taken on, to be working on a day-to-day basis. And she does it because she wants to make a difference, because she wants what's right for children in our education system. She wants what's right for our teachers who are struggling in our schools and being burdened with a big workload. So this is all just about good politics, and like, I have to say the 2 of them have been working so hard. And Chris just touched on something there. The council background is also really, really important. I think you bring that skill into the Assembly as well. Both mummies, Gaels, they have it all going on, and I think that I'm so proud that they are on our team. Cathy touched on it there, the juggling of life when you're in a political space. And it's hard, it can be very, very difficult, and but definitely I couldn't be prouder of all of the work that they do all the time, and are always on call all the time. And then let's turn to Michael, the Alcohol man himself. And folks, I was in West Belfast this morning, I was launching Fail on Football. And Jerry Adams says to me, what are you up to the rest of the day? So I was telling him I was coming here tonight. And he said, this was the best club in the mornings. That's probably very controversial to say here. But he did say to tell you that tonight, Michael. But I don't know if you all know this, but Michael tonight was supposed to be at his graduation from the Law Society. And instead, he's given up his special moment in his graduation because he believes this is a special moment in what he's doing at Stanford. I think that tells you all you need to know about commitment and what he's prepared to do in his new role that he'll be hopefully elected to next year with your support. So thank you, Michael, for being here, and congratulations on your being fully qualified today. And I think that Michael himself as well, cutting his teeth through council, again, I think that's so important to give you that bit of knowledge coming in. And as you all know here, and it's been referred to earlier, Michael first joined the council back in 2021 after the sad and difficult passing of Sean Dorn. And I know that Sean was such a huge inspiration to Michael himself, but also to many others here. So I've no doubt that he's looking down and he is super proud of you all here tonight. So I think you've got the candidates, we have the politics, We have the hard work, we have the activists, we have a party that are up and at it and that are grassroots community activists that know our community, that live in our community, that will work with our community, that will stand up for our community. So I think the opportunity that we have next year, and your part in this new Ireland that we're building, is to seize the opportunity, return the strongest Sinn Féin team ever to the Assembly next year. So in finishing tonight, I'm asking the people of Southdown and right across the north to join us on our journey towards a better future, to endorse our vision, to move forward together, to seize the opportunity to return that strong team. And we are aiming to make this seat in here and in other constituencies, I can tell you, is also across the north. So our message would be to vote for a new and better future for you and for your children and your grandchildren. A future that everyone can be part of and proud of. And I'm asking us all tonight to go out of this room really determined and really focused to let's make history in Southdown. Let's elect 3 Sinn Féin MLAs for this constituency.
Or maybe my own Michelle, and I have nothing else to say. Because everybody said it, but sure, I'll reiterate it anyway. So just a couple of upcoming events that have been asked to remind our comrades about. We obviously have Bodenstown this Sunday at 2:30, and our annual hunger strike commemoration will be on the 30th of August in Ballina. So Falcher Road, and hopefully we see a good Southdown turnout at both of those. It's really tangible, the excitement, and tangible. First time I've ever been here, so I'm not the last either. Some people need to usually harness that excitement and get out and get active. There's so many people in the room that are really, really good activists, and if you do want to get involved, there's plenty of work to be done, and there's a part for everybody to play. So Yvonne's told me to all leave your phone numbers. So, so just to close off tonight, and thank everybody for organising it. Events, I guess, don't come together on their own. So well done to everybody in the background who has set it up and videos and likes and whatever else. So thank you.